The, the amendment actually considers the testimony that was presented here in a hearing and modifies the original bill in accordance with some of the testimony presented. The Regulatory Freeze for Jobs Act, or the FREEZE Act, is about setting priorities. While American job creators are struggling to get by, Congress should enact policies that strengthen the ability of employers to invest, hire, and grow. By enacting a freeze on certain significant regulations until unemployment drops to 6% or below, the FREEZE Act injects certainty into the economy, giving job creators a break at a time when they need it most. The FREEZE Act doesn't outlaw regulations. It simply ensures that only the truly necessary significant regulations are implemented. The data shows that the Obama administration has issued far more major regulations than the previous administration, and the burden of these rules falls on job creators themselves. Through its first 3 years in office, this administration has finalized 106 major regulations that have added more than $46 billion per year in new costs for Americans. According to agency data, this is almost 4 times the number and more than 5 times the cost of these kinds of major regulations finalized under the previous administration. These rules are hurting growth in Arkansas and across the United States. I recently convened a jobs conference at the Clinton Library in my district, at which over 60 community and business leaders discussed federal policies as they relate to job creation. The economic uncertainty created by overregulation, not regulation, but overregulation, excessive regulation, was a constant refrain among participants. John Burkhalter, Commissioner of the Arkansas Highway and Transportation Commission and former Chairman of the Arkansas Economic Development Commission, said, quote, "Every project I look at now, I've got to wonder if I'm going to get to build it because are the regulations going to stop me? I've got to admit that I pass on over 50% of the projects that I would like to do because of the burden, the hurdle of the regulations," end quote. Critics of reform say that regulations are not tied to employment, but America's small business owners disagree. According to a January 2012 Gallup survey, 85% of American small business owners aren't hiring. Among this group, 46% of small business owners say they aren't hiring due to worry about new government regulations. While this bill freezes the largest and most costly rules that aren't necessary, we need some reasonable rules. The underlying bill provides exemptions for rules that protect against imminent threats to health and safety, enforcing criminal laws, providing for the national security of the United States, or that are necessary to implement an international trade agreement. Out of an abundance of caution, listening to the witnesses at the hearing that this committee had, the subcommittee had, the amendment in the nature of a substitute adds a congressional waiver by which the President would submit to Congress a regulatory action that would not fall into one of the other exemptions in the underlying bill. Congress could then take appropriate legislative action on any submission made by the President. This provision ensures that certain reasonable rules, such as stop-loss pay for members of the armed forces, are eligible to be exempt. This amendment also makes technical changes to clarify the time period of the freeze, as well as to strengthen eligibility for judicial review. The FREEZE Act is a priority-setting bill, and our priority is clear. We must enact policies that help job creators to invest and grow in America. The underlying bill and the amendment in the nature of a substitute are endorsed by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Chairman, I have 3 items I'd like to submit for the record. First, a letter of support for this amendment from the Chamber. Also, I'm including 2 letters from key constituents regarding compliance costs for certain EPA regulations. One is from Green Bay Packaging of Morrilton concerning compliant costs on the Boiler MAC, and the other is a letter from 3 major Arkansas electricity providers, the Arkansas Electric Cooperative, Southwest Power Pool, and Entergy Arkansas, regarding compliance costs for a host of EPA rules and their impact on the price of electricity. I ask that these letters be made a part of the record.